And you're on.
This is Middlesex Moments. I'm Jonathan Daube, Interim President of Middlesex Community College, and I have two guests with me today. Professor Christine Ruggiero, who's told me that she's been at the college, 6.5 years, and you'll tell me all its secrets as soon as we're done here. And Hannah Watkins, who's a student in her second year, who's just won a wonderful poetry award and who'll be touring colleges and universities. Do you know how many you'll be visiting?
7 or 8.
7 or 8
Yeah.
in Connecticut, and you'll be published?
Yes.
And do you happen to have any of your poems in front of you as we sit here?
Yes, I do.
That would be absolutely wonderful. I gather you have an award, whatever it is. Tell us about it.
I won the Connecticut Student Poets Contest, so I'll be going on tour to read at different universities around Connecticut, and one of my poems is going to be published in the Connecticut Review.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you get to choose which poem gets published, or do they
I think
choose
they have
it?
to choose, yeah.
But you can tell them what you would really like.
I don't know. I don't know if I get any choice in the matter.
Now, when did you hear about that?
I only found out like 3 days ago.
I knew sooner, though.
Yeah, she didn't tell me.
And you were told to be quiet?
I was told. I knew a week before she knew, and it was difficult to see her in class and not divulge the great news. So, I know.
Yeah, I would have had a hard time. With that.
Well, I gave her my cell phone number and said, contact me. Just if you hear either way, I want to know. And I thought maybe that would give her a little hint, but it didn't. So that's good, though. I didn't want to take away that moment.
That's wonderful. Has anyone from Middlesex ever won this thing before?
I found out earlier, actually this morning, that one other person had won the award in 1974. One Jerry Maguire.
In the previous century.
That's correct. That's correct.
Now, if Jerry Maguire happens to be listening, we'd love him to call the college. And if anyone who's listening knows one Jerry Maguire, I assume he's a little bit older than he was in 1974.
Probably.
But I think we should find him.
We should.
And I think he'd be pleased. I wonder what Jerry Maguire is doing right now. So anyway, you tour various colleges and universities and read your poetry. That's really exciting. This is Middlesex Moments. I'm Jonathan Daube, and we'll be back momentarily. This is Middlesex Moments. I'm Jonathan Daube, Interim President of Middlesex Community College, and my guests today are Professor Christine Ruggiero, who's been at the college 6.5 years and has told me she will tell me everything as soon as we're off the air. Nothing. All right. Well, maybe I misunderstood. Okay, where's your next paycheck coming from? And my second guest is Hannah Watkins, who's a student at Middlesex Community College, and in your second year, right? And you've just won this fabulous poetry award, and you're going to be touring Connecticut?
Yep, 7 or 8 colleges.
7 or 8 colleges. Do you know which ones? Can you remember any of them?
I know I'm going to Yale. And
Yale, I've heard of that one. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to get a list in the mail.
That's great.
Yeah,
and of course you're going to read.
Yes.
You'll be reading it at Middlesex, of course. That's wonderful. Do you know how many poems you'll be able to read?
I think I'm supposed to read for 10 minutes. So, however many I can fit into 10 minutes.
Okay, so you'll read fast.
Not allowed to do
great.
that.
No, of course not. Well, I gather you have some poems with you, and maybe you can read us one. There's one called Drainpipe Dreams. You want to read that one to us?
Sure. I think I just heard music trickle down the drainpipe, but that does not correspond with what I saw in the rain yesterday. Distance is safety. Poetry is lonely, and the raindrops carry away the sound of the sun. But I could swear I heard music trickling down the drainpipe.
That's lovely.
Thank you.
When did you first start writing poetry?
I think I was about 7 when I started.
So you've been writing ever since?
Yes, all the time.
Wow, that is so impressive. I mean, I read poetry, but I I'm not into writing it very much. And probably some of our listeners read poetry. And is it difficult? Do you?
Sometimes it really depends on what I'm writing about. Sometimes it's really easy. Sometimes it takes me months to finish a poem. So.
And why did you come to Middlesex Community College?
I'd heard really good things about it, and I had a lot of friends who go here, so I decided to try it out, and after my first semester, I just loved it, so I kept going.
And you met Professor Ruggiero. Are you taking a course with her?
Yes, creative writing this semester.
Creative writing.
Yes.
Surprise, surprise. You've been teaching creative writing, of course, for a long time.
Since 2005, I've been teaching it here. Yes.
And you were you teaching other places before you came here?
I had been. I was living in New York, in Westchester County, New York, and I was teaching at Westchester Community College and Pace University.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the last two colleges that I taught at in New York.
Now, how is Middlesex Community College different from other places that you've been?
I think that Middlesex Community College students and community college students in general are pretty similar. I think college students are pretty similar. And I found that they're just as diverse and their talents and their needs and their desires and their goals. And so I think one main difference, of course, between Middlesex Community College students and community college students and four-year students is that they have a lot at stake. A lot of them are paying for their tuition and paying their own ways and working a couple jobs and juggling, and I really admire them. I love teaching and learning with
they're
community
often
college
surprisingly serious in their studies, aren't
Absolutely, yes.
they? I don't want to stereotype, but you go to a typical four-year baccalaureate institution, and when the weekend comes along, there's the beer drinking and this and that. I see very little of that here.
A lot of working going on.
Yes.
When we try to schedule things, students say, "Oh, can't do it Thursday night or Friday night. Those are my nights to work and make money." So there is a little bit of a shift.
Now, how soon did you recognize that Hannah had something special going?
Fairly early on, I think that I approached her and said, do you have other poems that maybe I could read or you'd like to share? And I could just tell that she was a poet. That's what I could tell, that she seemed like she was a poet. And so she graciously said, "Well, yeah, I do. I could meet you, And so during office hours, she would come, and we started reading her works together and working on them, and so that's.
And
how
so
our
you
relationship
were
started.
the one who sudgested she apply for this.
I did.
This poetry circuit
I did.
thing. Okay.
I thought she had a really good shot of winning, and her poetry moved me, and that's not to be taken lightly. It speaks volumes, I think.
It's pretty competitive, isn't it?
Extraordinarily competitive. Each college and university in our entire state can nominate one student, and then among those nominees, only 5 students are chosen each year to be.
So you're one of 5.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. What other institutions do they come? Do you remember what kinds of institutions the others come from?
Yale University, Southern Connecticut
UConn.
State University, UConn, and there's one other, University of Hartford, I believe.
So we're the only community college in the mix?
That's correct.
Yep.
That's wonderful.
It is.
That's great.
Yeah.
Can you read us another poem, do you think?
Sure.
I think you've got one called A Gift from Dad.
Yes, I do. A sigh blows through my wind chimes, whispers notes on the fly, writing a new song, never to be heard the same again. To quiet your soul, Dad said, when he hung them by my window. Acorns smack the roof, louder than pieces of the moon, and oak leaves tap the windows on their way to the ground, as the silver chimes shiver their way into my mind.
Now, Professor Ruggiero, it must be very satisfying to hear one of your students who's gotten this award, reading poetry
Yes.
confidently and all of that. Go back a few years. Why did you want to become an English teacher?
I was 19, same age as Hannah, and I was
Same age as Hannah is now.
same
yes.
age as
You're
Hannah
not-
is now.
you're
That's
not-
right.
You're not claiming to be 19.
No.
Okay, just so it's clear. All right. You're 21.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Right.
Far from it. But anyway, when I was Hannah's age, I was inspired and moved by some English faculty, and I had been taking a lot of gen ed courses that included reading novels and analyzing literature, and I fell in love. And from that moment on, I knew I wanted to teach college. And so I think every step I took since then has been toward the goal of becoming a full-time faculty somewhere. And so I just knew. I'm not at first.
So it came fairly early.
It did, yes.
Are there any downsides to being an English professor?
Oh, well, I mean, the countless hours reading papers on end, that's the only downside. But of course, there's always those in the mix that just brighten that whole time, so I could spend 8 hours reading, and then during that time, there are so many that are feel-good pieces and, moments of pride where students have made strides in their writing that makes it all worth it.
Now, when you get someone with talent like Hannah and you see a poem, do you suggest changes, or how do you work with a student like that?
That's tricky because, it's so subjective. What's good, what's good poetry, I think, is subjective. So we really spent a lot of time talking about her objectives. What are you trying to achieve in this stanza, or with this word, maybe a different word for sound. So we did make some changes, but I'm hoping and I think that Hannah was comfortable with those, and they were ultimately her decision and her changes.
I'm imagining you two with dictionaries all around you. Am I right?
We looked up a word here and there.
Yeah.
Or a thesaurus or something.
Yeah. Yes.
Do you read poetry, Hannah?
Oh, yes, all the time.
Modern poetry, sort of the classics?
A little of both. Christine actually introduced me to some more modern poets that I really like.
Like?
Sharon Olds, Ruth Stone. I really love them.
And of the classics, is there one that's a favorite?
I love Emily Dickinson.
That's because she's related to Emily Dickinson. She's related to Emily Dickinson.
Well, I can't tell from looking at you whether you're kidding or not.
No, I am.
She is.
I am.
Tell us more.
Well, my uncle would always, he'd like to brag. He'd say, "Oh, we're related to Emily Dickinson. We're related to Emily Dickinson." I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." But then I guess it was like when I was 7, I guess, and I actually read some of her poetry, and that's what got me started. I just loved it so much. I said, I have to do this.
Now, did he tell you how you were related to Emily Dickinson?
Yeah, she's like a 14th cousin or something crazy like that, 7th cousin. I don't know.
That's not crazy. This is wonderful. This is wonderful. So we have told the public on this radio station that we have a student at Middlesex Community College who's related to Emily Dickinson. Doesn't get any better than that. No. You're probably related to Shakespeare. But
that would make me ancient.
Well,
And remember, I'm 19 or 21.
I understand. Have you been to the Emily Dickinson house in Amherst, Massachusetts?
No, my uncle's been there, but I really want to go.
That's your next assignment.
Okay.
Okay. No more courses until you go to the Emily Dickinson house.
Right.
Well, this is Middlesex Moments. I'm Jonathan Daube, and we'll be back momentarily. This is Middlesex Moments. I'm Jonathan Daube, Interim President of Middlesex Community College, and my guests today are Professor Christine Ruggiero and Hannah Watkins, a super-duper poet. A student here for a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
What kinds of courses have you been taking in that time?
Mostly general studies. I've taken a lot of English. It's my favorite subject. So I took short story and creative writing this semester. I love both of those classes.
What's the hardest class you've ever taken here?
Probably biology. I'm still trying to get through that one.
You're taking it right now?
Yep.
Do you think being on the poetry circuit is going to help you with will that get your grades up at all? That won't impress a biology professor.
I don't think so.
What's hard about it? Seriously, what's hard about it?
It's just a lot of information to take in all at once, and it's just really complicated. It's like microbiology. It's hard to fit it into the big picture.
How many people in the class?
It's started out with like 30 and it's down to about 15, I think.
And the lab, is there a lab component to the class?
Yeah, I enjoy the lab part.
You skinning cats or what?
No, not quite.
Oh, okay. That was a serious question, believe it or not.
No.
I hope nobody's offended by it, but that certainly the biology that you have to do for pre-med, those kinds of things have to happen, I guess. So anyway, you've won. You're the student poet, one of 5 student poets for the Connecticut Poetry Circuit. And I think it's time we heard another poem. And
Right.
you've got one called Kairos. What does Kairos mean? That's Greek, isn't it?
Yeah, it's ancient Greek word. It means a moment set apart in the flowing of chronological time.
Okay, so we all have to relax and think way back, long time. Okay, go for it.
All right. A butterfly, as it changes, dies a little too. The river, as it flows, leaves colored glass. A candle, as it flickers, burns a white moth. The moon, as it grows, shames the stars. A poet, as she writes, finds a little truth.
You know what I like about your poems is they're all different. It's not just one single style. Maybe that's what got you the award. How many poems did you have to submit?
It was 5 pages. So it was maybe 10 poems altogether.
10 or 15, yeah. And this is really competitive stuff. Did others from this college submit as well?
No, it's one poet for every college.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Now back to Professor Ruggiero. You've been teaching here 6.5 years, and you told me that you first decided at about age 19 that you really wanted to be a teacher. Were you influenced by people who taught you when you were in school?
Absolutely. When I was an undergrad, there were 2 professors in particular who really moved me and excited me and showed me that I can be something that I really wanted to be. And that made all the difference. And I sometimes I tell students this, that it was a book called Norma Jean, the Termite Queen, that actually turned my whole world around, by Sheila Ballantyne.
Norma Jean, the Termite Queen.
Yes.
What was that all about?
Well, just breaking down stereotypes of women's roles and men's roles, and and that I could have my little pottery corner in the garage, so to speak, as the wife did in that book. But it was really literature that changed my way of thinking about myself and about the world.
And are you still in touch with any of those professors?
I am.
Tell me about it.
2 of them, Deb Robinson and James Takach. We write to each other, and I actually went to a party, a PhD congratulatory party for Debbie when she received that recognition, and so we are in touch.
Now, do you teach in the same way as you were taught, or are we in a different age now?
Both. I think
Okay.
both. I think I try to incorporate some of what excited me into the classroom today when I teach, but I also have to recognize that students' needs are a little bit different, and so technology has changed our teaching.
In what way are the students different from when you were in college, which isn't that long ago?
No, well,
All
I'm not
right.
divulging that.
Of course.
I'll give up other people's secrets first.
Right.
No, I do think that it is different a little bit. Students, because they are working and because they're juggling so many responsibilities, they don't have a lot of that sort of leisure time to come during our set office hours. They need us to be, I think, more accessible and available to them, and email allows that. And so, and Blackboard technology allows them to access documents, that they may lose, or whatever the case may be. If they were absent, students are able to still be in touch with what's going on in the classroom.
Now,
And with the
Hannah,
instructor.
you're taking how many courses at any one time?
I'm taking 5 right now.
And do you have a job as well?
Yes, I do.
Whoa, how many hours is the job?
It's about 20 hours a week.
So you're doing 20 hours a week and 5 courses.
Yep.
Ooh, there's a silence here because I'm in awe of how much some of our students accomplish. That's terrific. You've probably given up sleeping.
Pretty much, yeah. Sleeping is overrated.
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think so. It's wonderful. Is that stressful sometimes, taking 5 courses, which is very much a full load?
Sometimes. I just get through it one thing at a time, and it just works out in the end.
That's wonderful. Have you written any poems on that dilemma of...
Not really.
Okay,
No.
okay. Now back to Professor Ruggiero. When you were a student, were you working as well?
Not in a traditional sense, like Hannah is. However, I did tutor at our college writing center. It was really small, but I did that only a few hours a week, maybe 5 hours a week. So nothing similar to, I think, what some of our students are experiencing.
How would you describe your teaching style? I mean, if I walked in, what would I see going on in your classroom?
Well, I think one of the highest compliments I've ever received is that a student wrote in a comment, "I feel like I'm in your living room." And I loved that comment, and I would hope maybe that's what you would feel like, welcoming and come on in and let's talk.
Informal?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
I'd say. Hannah, I see her nodding.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree?
What
Yes.
about the students, unlike Hannah, who frankly do not have, the literary skills and aren't in the habit of reading, and how do you work with them?
I think it's the same approach, just getting them excited and building their confidence and having them believe that they can do this. They can write. They don't have to, be poets. Not everybody has to be a poet and be, a prose writer. But I think a lot of it is we feel that we're either on the math side or the English side, and so if we already have that disbelief in that skill, then it's important to kind of break that down a little bit. And so I think the welcoming environment hopefully helps that. And
But there's a lot of literature today about students who come to college ill-prepared, and you've read it, and there's some truth to that. We're an open access institution. We're proud of it. Anybody can come in if they're motivated, and I keep repeating that, if they really want to do the work. How do you deal with that?
Well, I embrace all students. So I think that, if a student is motivated, certainly it makes it a lot easier to work with that student and to be able to help that student succeed, because the student already wants to succeed. And I think being honest and available and accessible and meeting with students individually is really important, especially if a student has come in deficient in any one area. If the student is ill-prepared, as you mentioned. And having really heartfelt, honest conversations and having the student assess himself and herself as writers.
And of course, at a community college, we have small classes.
Yes.
We don't have 200 students being taught by teaching assistants.
Correct.
So I assume you know the names of every student in your class. I would hope that some of them kind of catch it from good students like Hannah. And I think we have time for one more poem. Stonewall Builder, perhaps?
Yes. His wife loves the old New England stone walls, so he's stacking stones to the staccato rhythm of her heartbeats, reaching his thoughts of how he wants to show her how much he loves her. Yesterday's leaves swirl against the edges of the rocks and in between his thoughts as he bends his back over granite until that wall has been built for her. He walks away and lets the color of the rain wash the sweat away from every stone.
Now, I want our listeners to know that they have just been hearing a distant relative of Emily Dickinson. They have. This has been Middlesex Moments. My guests have been Professor Christine Ruggiero and Hannah Watkins, a wonderful student. Take a look at our website, mxcc.comnet with 2 M's, comnet.edu. I'm Jonathan Daube, Interim President of Middlesex Community College. Have a good day.